Hi, and welcome to building your Hello World application in Xcode 4. So this is going along with what we've covered in class, and we're just going to go through quickly to review what we did together. So you're going to start Xcode and then create a new Xcode project. And let me line this back up inside here. And when we open this up, you want to make sure that we're choosing the iOS type of project and choose application. And we're just building a view-based application, which is, for our purposes, probably going to be the most common one that we'll be using in class. We will look at these other ones in another lecture. So we give our product a name, so let's just call this Hello World and choose Next. And I'm just going to save it to my desktop. And then we have our main screen, which has the summary information about our project. And again, we'll get into more of what all is going on in here at a later time. This is your first application in the iOS platform and in Xcode. So I'm going to be just demonstrating this and not going into a lot of detail everywhere. For the beginning purposes, we're going to be working with these three files: the header file, the Hello World View Controller header file, the Hello World View Controller M file, which is for implementation, and then the Hello World View Controller nib file. Even though it's XIB, they still call it a nib file, which is from historical purposes. But the nib file is what's going to take us into Interface Builder. So I want you to click on that. And here we have a mock-up of an iPhone screen. And I'm going to add on in the view to show the utilities over to the side. And this is going to let us access different things that we can build in our interface. So I'm just going to drag this up a little bit so that I can see more of some of the options and objects that we can work with. So I'm going to start out with putting a button onto my screen, and we have these nice alignment buttons here that can help us with aligning features to the screen or to each other. And I'm just going to rename, I'm just going to add some text to my button. Click me. Yes, who can resist clicking a button that says click me? Yeah. And then we're going to add label. So I'm just going to drag some label text on. Now I can use this alignment to align it to the center of the button or along the left edge. So I'm going to put it up here. We can make our label area wider by dragging. You can also change features of some of the elements that you've added by the property inspector over to the side, like if I wanted my text to be centered, if I wanted to change the font size and the font color, I could do something like that. Okay, so we have a label and we have a button. And now we have to switch back into our code to connect the things that we have on our screen with our code. First of all, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to delete this label text, because what we're going to have it do is when we click this button, we're going to have it put some text in here that we're going to create within our code. So we have our button and our label here. And now for Xcode to be able to interact with them, we need to create them and identify them in our header file. And we need to specify what should happen to them in the implementation file. So something that we'll go over in more detail is what's called the model view controller, where our view information talks to the rest of the program through the controllers. So this is our view controller for interface builder. So our interface information is separated from the code that's going to interact with it. So I'm going to start by going over to the header file, and that pops up our code over here. Now this gives you a bunch of lines for comments in here, so I'm going to take out a bunch of these just so that it's a little shorter in here. And I'm going to add our code for our interface. So we're going to specify that we have what's called an IB outlet, and I have the autofill turned on so it'll pop up with suggestions and think about what I'm trying to type in. We have a label, UI label, and so I'm going to give it a name. We'll call it the hello label. So we're identifying to Xcode that there is an outlet that's going to interact with our user interface. We have a UI label, which is a class that's built into Xcode, and we're giving it a specific name, and we identify that with the asterisk. And we're going to say, well, what do we want to have happen with that label? So we need to assign an action to that. So we have an IB. IB again is interface builder action. And we're going to say hello. And the ID is sender, which is the actual text that's on the button. This is our text label, and this is the name of our button that we defined on Interface Builder, but we didn't give it a name yet. We'll have to go back into Interface Builder and connect it to our code here. So we're saying that there's a label and what our label name is called, and there's a button and what its name is called. And it's going to be an interface builder action, means it's going to do something to interact with our controller. So now I'm going to go to the implementation file, and again I'm going to get rid of a lot of the comments that are up here. I generally like to leave the name of the file at least up here so I can quickly discern where I am. And right after implementation, now these may pop up depending on the settings that you have in Xcode, and that helps you to see that there are some warning messages. Don't worry about those at this point because right now we haven't finished typing in all of our code, so it's warning us that there's something that probably isn't going to work or that's not set up properly. So in the implementation now, we have to tell it what we want that button to do when it's clicked. So we're going to basically we can switch back here and copy this up to the semicolon, because that's basically the same thing that's going to be in our implementation file when we define this method of what should happen, and instead of the semicolon we'll put in curly braces. So when that hello button is clicked, what do we want to have happen? We want to change the text that's on the label. So hello label is what we named it, and we can put in .text to specify what the text should be, equals @ and the text that we want to put in when it's clicked. So this says that when the hello button is clicked, what we want it to do is to find the hello label object and change the text to whatever is inside the double quotes here. So you save your file as you work, but in order for everything to work together now, we have to go back into Interface Builder and tie it in together. we've created these objects and defined our methods in the header and implementation file, but right now the interface builder, these are not tied into that code. So I'm going to go over here, and in this center column, the files owner, I'm just going to right click on it, and here we have it pops up. It recognizes that these things are already in the code, like the hello label is an outlet, and an outlet means our code is sending something to that label, so it's an outlet. So I'm going to just click here and drag over. Now you can't see it, but once you get to the right spot, you'll see it'll pop up, and I'm identifying this and saying this is the hello label. And then you can see that now they're tied together. When I mouse over, it pops up. And received actions, it's going to be getting this action from the hello button, which is the click me button. So again, I'm going to drag this over so that it will recognize that this is the button which we're referring to as hello. And when we release it, it pops up and says, okay, which do you want to recognize as being clicked? And the typical action for a button is touch up inside. And so now we can see again as we mouse over here, it pops up and shows you what's connected to this particular action. So now we've got these connected together, and I can close this. Again, I'm going to save my file, and I'm going to test it in the simulator. So you can test that by going to run, and as we run it, it's going to be compiling. We have a little message center here that tells us what's going on. The build succeeded, excellent. And then we have our simulator pop up with our button, and as long as everything works okay, when we hit click me, we have our hello Xcode pop up in the window.